On July 25th, 1957, the American brewing company Anheuser-Busch announced that they purchased 160 acres of land in Tampa, Florida, to build a botanical gardens and, of course, a new brewery. Everything went according to plan, and in March the following year, a groundbreaking ceremony was hosted by August Busch Jr., the then chairman of Anheuser-Busch, and the man responsible for turning that company into the conglomerate that it is today. On June 1st, 1959, Busch Gardens Tampa Bay opened to the general public as a free admission beer tasting / brewery tour featuring the Stairway to the Stars, which was at the time the world's largest outdoor escalator, which led to the rooftop of the brewery where the tour began. Also, there was the hospitality house where the beer tasting was held, and a bird viewing garden because August Busch was apparently quite the animal lover. I can relate to that. In March 1960, the Adolphus Busch space frame was open, a geodesic dome housing a 99-foot aviary, which housed the park's larger and rarer birds. 4 years later, the old Swiss House opened, a 4-story top-shelf restaurant, which at the time was considered one of the finest in all of Florida. It was linked to the rest of the park by a tram system, so you could get back and forth with ease. 1965 saw probably the most significant addition in the park's history, which gave the park an identity. The Serengeti Plains, with live African wildlife, was open. At the time, was the largest free-roaming habitat outside of Africa. The following year, in 1966, a monorail was added to go around the Serengeti Plains so you get a bird's-eye view of the wildlife. In 1968, Busch Gardens Tampa was the #1 tourist attraction in all of Florida, but that was about to change. Walt Disney World was under construction just 58 miles east, and that was some serious shit. And rapid plans were put in motion to expand the park so they could hopefully keep up with that Disney money. And by 1970, free admission ended, and the plans to turn the park into a full-blown amusement park was in full motion. And by 1971, the Serengeti Express opened, a train ride which took you around the savannah to get you an even closer view of the wildlife. By 1973, a new section was added to the park, Stanleyville, with the park's first real amusement ride, the Stanley Falls Flume, a classic log flume, can't go wrong. 1974 saw the addition of the Sky Ride, a classic gondola ride which took you from the east end of the park to the west end of the park. In 1975, Anheuser-Busch decided to open another theme park, called Busch Gardens The Old Country in Williamsburg, Virginia, now known as Busch Gardens Williamsburg, thus creating a small theme park chain with plans to expand. 1976 saw another expansion to the park as the Congo section was added all the way in the back, which brought with it Python, the park's very first roller coaster, an Aero corkscrew. Nothing too fancy by today's standards, but those were hip and happening at the time. That same year, the park began using the moniker Busch Gardens The Dark Continent, which has an absolutely and terrible ring to it. The following year saw the addition of the African Queen boat ride, kind of a poor man's Jungle Cruise. By 1979, Anheuser-Busch named their theme park chain. Busch Entertainment was formed, consisting of the two parks, with plans to expand. And they did just that the following year, 1980, with the addition of Adventure Island, an outdoor water park directly across the street. Also that year, we saw the addition of the Stanleyville Amphitheater, and an entirely new section was added to the park, Timbuktu, featuring the Scorpion, a Schwarzkopf looping roller coaster. An absolutely perfect coaster for young enthusiasts breaking into the game. 1982 saw the addition of the Congo River Rapids, a standard rapids ride, and also the old Swiss House closed that year. 1983 saw the addition of a children's area called Dwarf Village. The following year saw an Intamin looping starship added called the Phoenix. 1987 the monorail closed, but just to get redone, and it reopened the following year. 1989 saw the closure of the African Queen boat ride, but the addition of the Tanganyika Tidal Wave, a shoot-the-chutes water ride attraction. But the most significant thing that happened that year was Busch Entertainment purchased all of the SeaWorld parks, thus tripling the size of Busch Entertainment in one whack. 1990 saw the old Swiss House reopen, but renamed the Crown Colony House. It was around this time frame too where they finally dropped the Dark Continent moniker and just began calling it Busch Gardens Tampa Bay once again. 1991 saw the addition of the Quest Store, a 3D motion simulator ride which was pretty cool for its time. 1993 saw a huge addition to the park in terms of a roller coaster. Kumba opened to the park, a one-of-a-kind custom-built B&M looper. It blew the socks off of everyone back in the day and still does so to this day. 1994 saw the closure of the Stanleyville Amphitheater. The following year saw the closure of the Stairway to the Stars, one of the original hallmarks of the park, ending a certain chapter to the history. That same year saw the children's area Dwarf Village renamed to Land of the Dragons. 1996 saw a major addition to the park. The Egypt section was added in the southeast corner of the park, bringing with it Montu, arguably the most legendary B&M invert ever built, and just like Kumba, is still knocking socks off to this day. Also joining the park with the Egypt edition was King Tut's tomb, a walk-through attraction emulating an archaeological dig. The following year saw the closure of Questor, didn't last long, but the addition of Akbar's Adventure Tours featuring my guy, Martin Short. 1999 saw multiple things happen. New land was purchased for an announced hotel. That never happened. The monorail closed for good. The park debuted their Halloween event, Hollow Scream, and also the addition of a GCI wood racing coaster called Gwazi. 2001 saw the addition of Rhino Rally, an animal safari attraction. 2003 saw the addition of R.L. Stine's Haunted Lighthouse, a 4D film experience with wired seats, water jets, and all kinds of f***ing sensory-related things. The following year saw a mock Wild Mouse roller coaster added, the Sand Serpent. 2005 saw the addition of SheiKra, a 200-foot tall B&M dive coaster. They may be a short ride experience, but they pack quite a punch. 2006 saw a name change to the park as it began referring to itself as Busch Gardens Africa. Also that year, R.L. Stine's Haunted Lighthouse 4D closed. Very short-lived. But it was replaced by Pirates 4D featuring Leslie Nielsen. But the biggest news of that year was the closure of Python, the park's original roller coaster, closing yet another chapter to the park's significant history. The following year saw yet another closure, as Akbar's Adventure Tours closed its doors permanently. By 2008, they decided the Busch Gardens Africa moniker was not working, so they jumped back to calling it Busch Gardens Tampa. And also the Jungala section opened in the park that year, occupying the former grounds of where Python once stood. A family area bringing with it some animal exhibits, a family launch tower, and a zip line. 2009 was a huge year for the company, as Busch Entertainment sold all of their parks to the Blackstone Group for $2.7 billion, and they renamed the park division SeaWorld Parks and Entertainment. 2010 saw the children's area Land of the Dragons get renamed to Sesame Street Safari of Fun, and the addition of the Air Grover Kids Coaster, and of course, let's promote Sesame Street. Sesame Street's pretty cool. Sesame Street presents Lights, Camera, and Imagination. The year of Sesame Street. 2011 saw the addition of Cheetah Hunt, a custom-made from head-to-toe launch coaster from my guys at Intamin. It's a beautifully done roller coaster and one thrilling ride. 2012 saw the closure of Sesame Street, Lights, Camera, Imagination. Didn't last long. 2013 we saw two more closures, Pirates 4D and King Tut's Tomb. 2014 was a pretty big year, as Rhino Rally closed. The Timbuktu area was renamed Pantopia, but most importantly, we got a one-of-a-kind drop tower from my guys at Intamin, Falcon's Fury. 335-foot tall drop tower that tilts you in your chair when you're at the peak and drops you facing straight down to the ground before fleeing you back into position. Easily one of the best flat rides on the planet. 2016 we saw the Tanganyika Tidal Wave close its doors, but we got an addition in a mock spinning coaster called Cobra's Curse, an elaborately themed family coaster that's a great starter. 2017, we saw the Blackstone Group sell its shares in the company to Zhonghong Holdings Company, a real estate development team out of China. 2015 saw the closure of Gwazi. Not too many people complained about that, because it got pretty rough over the years. But what was to be done with the land it occupied? No one knew at the time. 2019, we got a replacement for the Tanganyika Tidal Wave, Tigris, a premier Skyrocket 2 launch coaster. Takes up a small footprint, but presents one hell of a ride. 2019, it was announced what was going to happen with Gwazi. RMC was going to come sprinkle their infinity dust on it and create a magical roller coaster. And they did. But unfortunately, the ride did not open for the 2020 season as promised. But the opening to Iron Gwazi is right around the corner, and it will for sure become one of the world's premier roller coasters. This is one hell of a complete park. It basically covers all bases. If you're an animal lover, check. Thrill seeker, Check. Want to just spend a leisurely day with your family? Check. Florida has a plethora of amazing theme parks, and there's nothing wrong with any of them. But if you're visiting or live in the state of Florida and you're a hardcore theme park fan, you know where to be.